We are back here with more Farming Simulator. I really do need to think of a name for this farm. Maybe it's like the my last name, Family Farm, which is something I always wanted to make in real life. I'm not sure what I'm going to call it yet, but I do feel like every farmer I've seen in Farming Simulator and in real life has a catchy name. Well, we'll get there eventually. Today is just about hard work. And also, I start to wonder what the future is going to look like here on the farm. And what I mean is, I don't know what my end game looks like for this farming simulator run. Obviously, I'm trying to keep this one a little more grounded, not go into the extreme or the absurd. But does that mean I draw a line at some point? Does that mean I stop making progress? I'm just not quite sure yet. And what I'm thinking about here is that at some point I will reach a tipping point where I start to make a lot of money. I don't know when that's going to be necessarily, could be far in the future, but it will happen. And that's when I'll switch from, guy with a local hobby farm, a couple of fields, 2 or 3 tractors, to a really heavy duty farming operation. I mean, I could have massive fields and multiple production lines. And I don't know if that's then the same game that I've done before that I'm trying to avoid. But then as the game evolves, do I just play that style? Do I adjust? Do I slow down the days, increase the lengths of the months to accommodate? Or do I keep it grounded and strict all the way through? Just say whatever happens, happens, and then potentially limit my growth because that's what would happen in real life. Now, in my earlier videos, I complained a bit that once you get to be a bit too large, which historically I've done way too fast, the game stops being fun because everything becomes a frantic scramble to manage enough AI workers to get through the day and through the month while getting all your tasks done. Now, of course, that's a while off, sure, but I do start to wonder already because I would like to get to a point where I'm successful in this run, and I'll have to make the choice. And that's the important part, And yeah, as I'm driving my tiny tractor around mowing the smallest field, or maybe the second smallest field in the game, that seems like a crazy thing to think about, but I'm a guy who likes to know the end point. I don't really want to rush to it, but I do want to understand where I'm going, and then I can pace myself out and plan accordingly. That's true in life, and it's true here in Farming Simulator. What I ended up thinking about, where I think I'm going, is the only way to make this fun and still achieve things is to go heavily into production down the line. And I think I mentioned this before, where maybe it makes the most sense to perhaps focus on something like a flour mill or oil mill. And I guess those exist in this map. I haven't actually double checked everything. Something along those lines. Something I can get a nice production set up on my farm and then send everything through that production line and potentially even a second line. I think I mentioned at some point that my grandfather was a cotton farmer. I think it'd be fun to have a nice cotton field, or several because the equipment is so crazy expensive that you better have a lot to make it worth it, positive ROI. I mean, I do remember rushing in Farming Simulator 22 and getting a cotton production, and it did make a crazy amount of money, but also I think the harvester cost nearly $1 million, something insane like that. And maybe that's the actual end game. Maybe the end game is I get a few crops, get one production, and also become a pretty prolific cotton farmer, and that's the pinnacle of my run. Along with, of course, having a nice spread of animals, which again is something I would like to do in real life. Cows, pigs, goats, sheep, alpacas seem pretty sweet. I've seen the ads in the game form. I guess it works. Good job, Giants. Maybe even a few horses. What I know I don't want to do is to make this massive tractor and machine simulator. I think there's a time and place for that. I think it might be when I switch to PC and get a few more mods, because I don't think I can manage the AI the right way on PlayStation. Or maybe there's no difference and it's the exact same experience, and I'm just being goofy. But I just don't want this run to be me cycling through AI workers all day, every day. And maybe that's the point. I think a different run about getting the coolest, most expensive, shiniest fringe tractors and machines would be fun for me. But it's a complete departure from what I'm going for here, building up a farm from scratch. I mean, here, I just want to be a guy with a nice collection of animals. Well, not a collection, herd, a couple of herds, I don't know. But anyway, make a small but life-sustaining profit on it. Then a couple of small tractors and some equipment to run a few fields around me. And then as I get a little more confident, maybe I get a business here in town, expand my operations, create a legacy for the fake in-game family. That's the story I'm trying to build. And it kind of mirrors real life a little bit. I may have said this before, but my grandfather always farmed cotton. And we didn't live nearby, so I would go there typically during the summers for a few weeks to visit and just see these massive fields of cotton and then get to run around and play on these tractors and cotton pickers. And he always had goats for us as well. I would go goats in this game. I don't think they have meat goats yet, which are much simpler, which is what my grandparents raised. I didn't know at the time. I thought, again, they were just buying us cool goats. At any rate, I spent my childhood climbing up and down these tractors and riding along. And of course, they were these massive machines, and I was just a tiny kid. And then we were in Japan for a couple of years, and we couldn't get back routinely because it was just too hard to travel and too expensive to fly us home. So I didn't go home for 3 years. And then I visited, I think I went through 9th, 10th, 11th grade. Summer after 11th grade is when I visited. And I went out there and I was like, oh man, you got all new tractors. So you got rid of those big ones that you had and you have these tiny ones. And these tractors that you had now were honestly barely taller than me at the time. And he was like, what do you mean? I've had these tractors for decades at this point. That's when I realized that the tractors had indeed not changed size at all. I had just grown a lot. And what I thought were like these monolithic, massive tractors were actually, in theory, very small tractors. Adorable, I know. So as you're watching today and you're seeing this work on the farm, I'm not doing some crazy progress today. Today was a lot of reflection of like, okay, I have a plan, but how far am I going to take it? I think I have some ideas, own some production lines, be a big cotton farmer, but I look at the field for the fields in the game and I'm like, man, I do want all of those. But of course, that would then trend into the absurd. I don't know the answer yet. I know I want to keep this run grounded, keep it within a scope, and then move on. But I don't know what completion looks like just quite yet. And that's what I'm thinking about. But for now, I'm excited to do the work. I like building what's in front of me, and I'm enjoying having you guys with me. Thank you so much. We're building something beautiful here. And that, my friends, is all for today. Thank you for joining me as we discuss the future of this farm and do a little bit of work. Progress is slow, progress is rewarding, and I appreciate you coming along for the ride. On behalf of all of us here at Mediocre Industries, we'll see you next time. You have a great one.